Stay tuned to the end of the video to find out how you can win a Batman the Animated Series action figure from McFarlane Toys.
Okay, give me a second to catch my breath. This was a lot to take in when it hit my Twitter timeline a few Thursdays ago. Wait a second. Did they do this?
Because it's Thursday.
These absolute madmen know how to get us. But seriously, where do we even start with this? I suppose let's back it up and give some context. The past few years have been a wild time to be a fan of the DC animated universe, but more specifically, Batman the Animated Series. While the show ended in 1995, 2016 opened the door for new stories to be told in the world of that show a full 21 years later through IDW's Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adventures. In March of the following year, fans were met with the return of this world by one of the show's co-creators, Paul Dini. Having teased this a time or two throughout his appearances on the #VeryGoodAndCool Batman the Animated Podcast, 2017's Harley Quinn number 17 began a stint of comics that featured a backstory titled Harley Loves Joker, featuring the original version of the characters from Batman the Animated Series. The book introduced new characters to the BTAS mythos by way of the Wonderland Gang, first introduced by Paul in Detective Comics number 841, as well as a completely new character known as the Grayson. New adventures, new characters, written by Paul Dini. Of course, also announced in March of 2017 was the return to Batman the Animated Series on screen through the Bruce Timm helmed Batman and Harley Quinn. Following this announcement, in July, IO9 reported that Batman Adventures alumni Ty Templeton and Rick Burkett would be working on a companion comic to the film. Once again, the film and comic brought in a lot of new characters in the way of Swamp Thing, the Floronic Man, and Argus, the last of which returned for the not BTAS but still DCAU film Justice League vs. the Fatal Five, which added even more new characters to this world. For better or worse, we all got to dip our toes back into the waters of Batman the Animated Series and have a chance to catch up with the characters we had fallen in love with 20 or so years prior in print and on screen. But it didn't stop there. While DC Collectibles had been releasing action figures based on Batman the Animated Series for some time, at Toy Fair 2019, the company announced that they were working on a line titled Batman The Adventures Continue that would include brand new characters never seen on the show, including Red Hood, Azrael, Deathstroke, and a Dark Knight Returns inspired Batman. Months later, another announcement was made that the line was expanding to now include the Batman Who Laughs, Talon, Hush, Thomas Wayne Batman from the Flashpoint universe, and a Vampire Batman. The most intriguing part of these releases, though, the figures were all based on designs by Ty Templeton and were said to include official bios for each character written by Paul Dini himself. At the time, we thought these were some really cool toys and started brainstorming amongst ourselves trying to find ways to fit these new characters into our fan-made webcomic, Legacies of the DCAU. But then of course, that tweet happened. That beautiful, idea-wrecking tweet. Return to the world of Batman the Animated Series with Batman The Adventures Continue, a new 6-issue digital-first miniseries from Paul Dini, Alan Burnett, and Ty Templeton. According to Entertainment Weekly, the miniseries is a part of an initiative to introduce new characters into DC Collectibles' Batman the Animated Series line of toys. So it seems as though any and all of those characters are fair game to be used in the storyline. But it's a miniseries! Sure, the first issue is being advertised as 36 pages long, but how many of these characters' storylines can you truly fit in? There's no way to say with certainty, but Paul Dini did tease a handful of possibilities.
Get a load of this.
If the bat's on a spree, Wayne must pay the fee.
We'd gone from Dick Grayson to Tim Drake, and we had left out Jason. What we're doing with this is looking at this as a chance to go back and actually acknowledge that was a part of the animated Batman's history. For the first time, you're going to see that story, and you're going to see what happened in that relationship. So it's our chance to not only do Jason Todd, but also the Red Hood. There are other characters like Azrael, who was popular in the comics around the time of the show, and Deathstroke, who we never used in the animated series. As you may already know from our video we did covering the possibility of Jason in the DCAU, this raises some Red Hoods. Flags. While the Robin suit we see Tim take up in Sins of the Fathers seems like an obvious reference to the Batcave's Jason Todd memorial in normal comics continuity, it's always been referred to as the original Robin outfit, suggesting it belonged to Dick, despite not resembling the outfit throughout Batman the Animated Series. Not to mention, Tim Drake's character in the DCAU more so resembles Jason, all the way from his origin up to his demise, even being regarded as the DCAU's version of Death in the Family. So would we just be retreading already covered ground now that the actual Jason is being introduced into this world? Well, maybe not. In August of 1997, when speaking to Wizard magazine about Tim Drake, Paul Dini stated, "We came up with our own origin for him, which we found out had parallels to the Jason Todd character, in that he was a street kid who came into conflict with Two-Face. When we looked at Jason Todd's origin, we were surprised there were a lot of parallels, which to me suggests a few things. 1, Tim was never intended to be a Jason clone. 2, Dini is well aware of the similarities. And 3, he's more than willing to rewrite origins. Who knows? Maybe Jason has some history with Batman while never having been a Robin, which, to be perfectly honest, I hope is the case. If we come to find out that in the 2 years between Batman the Animated Series and the new Batman adventures that Batman had a second Robin, the Joker killed him, and then he turned right around and put a third kid in the tights, not only does it cheapen Tim's demise in Return of the Joker, but it also kind of puts just a bit of a damper on the whole Batman is compassionate thing we just did. Here you go, Timmy, my boy. My last sidekick was killed last week. There's still blood stains on the outfit that I haven't gotten to wash out yet. Get in! In DC's article on the story, Alan Burnett stated, "Perhaps the most intriguing character in the run will be a young man whose story threads through most of the issues. He's a smart, super elusive loner who knows way too much about the Dark Knight. How this mystery man fits into the world of Batman adventures and what he means to accomplish should, I hope, be a real jolt for old fans." Which seems as though it could be about Jason. Personally, what I'm hoping for is that with Ty Templeton on the book, we may have Jason's origin tied in with the Red Hood from Ty's Batman Adventures Volume 2, Number 8. Probably a long shot, but a girl can dream. Dini expressed similar sentiment in the EW article, saying, "There's a stranger in town who has stalked out the Batman family, who knows them very well and is watching them from a distance with a mixture of amusement and deep hatred. That's gonna be a challenge and concern for them at some point. The guy is so good that even though Batman and the others get glimpses of him, they have no idea who he is or what he wants. And that's a mystery for them to solve." And it's got me wondering, are we talking Red Hood here? Deathstroke? Both? The fact that we're told that it's someone who knows the Batman family very well suggests that it may be Jason. But if we're working on the assumption that he worked with Batman between Dick and Tim, then he'd really only be familiar with Batman and Batgirl. On the other hand, we've never seen Deathstroke in the DCAU. Can we really assume that he has any familiarity with the Bat family? We do know that Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, appeared as president on the Crime Syndicate's Earth in Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. And according to Dwayne McDuffie, the final product of that film still matches 95% of what was initially planned for the DCAU set Justice League Worlds Collide. So one could assume that with the two worlds being mirrored opposites of each other, it would suggest that a bad guy DCAU version of Deathstroke has been hiding in the shadows, just out of the reach of network censors who won't let you call a cartoon character Death something or other.
Who is Slade?
Whether this specific storyline can be attributed to Jason Todd or Slade Wilson, we do already have a peek into what the Deathstroke story may include due to some social media posts from Sean Gordon Murphy. Sean is perhaps most notable for his work on the Batman White Knight series that takes some cues from the animated version of Batman. On February 18th, he posted 2 progress pictures to Twitter that he stated were a Deathstroke cover for the writer who affected my childhood the most, Paul Dini. The cover features rough work on Batman, Deathstroke, Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and a girl in a skirt? Luckily, the same day, over on Instagram, Sean gave us a closer look and oh my god, it's Annie! But she's Clayface! And dead? Over at the Anime Superhero Board, some members have suggested that perhaps this isn't Annie, but maybe the person that Clayface had based Annie off of. But I have a few problems with that. First of which, we're never told that Clayface's appearances have to be modeled off of anyone who actually exists. While we do see him do this from time to time with previous acting gigs or even impersonating Bruce Wayne, he's not really in a position where this seems to make sense when he creates Annie. He's in a sewer pipe far away from civilization, so if she's based off of anyone at all, this would have to be someone he had seen in the past. Which, while not impossible, doesn't seem likely to me, as we're led to believe that this occurred around the time of Clayface's disappearance in Mudslide. And by the time we meet Annie, we'd be at least 2 years later. The person she was based on would also be older. And depending on when this comic falls on the timeline, it may be a bit more than a 2-year difference. Granted, Tim never seems to age either, so who even knows? What I do know is that we seem to have been teased a few panels from this issue via Ty Templeton's Instagram account. Look at that tiny little Deathstroke in there. Ain't he a cutie? Wait a second. The Batman Who Laughs is actually gonna be in the series? That wasn't in the article. Are they putting all the new characters into these 6 issues? How? Wait. Maybe our mysterious figure from earlier isn't Jason Todd or Deathstroke at all. Maybe it's Hush or Talon. Or if this new set of panels that Ty just posted today while I'm recording this is any indication, maybe it is Jason and my speculation was a waste of your time. But okay, I've gotta calm down. These questions aren't good for my blood pressure. Growing Pains isn't the only on-screen story that we'll be getting a follow-up for.
Watch Batman the Animated Series tomorrow afternoon on Fox.
Batman here. Thanks for watching my show.
We're kicking off with the Bruce-Lex relationship and a semi-sequel of the Batman and Superman crossover, World's Finest, because the events of that are touched on. Where did that leave Bruce and Lex after they were busted by Batman and Superman? It's interesting to see the little dueling that goes on between them. EW also stated that this kickoff would include a giant robot which breaks into Wayne Enterprises and steals an entire laboratory on top of Lex Luthor's mysterious return to Gotham City. A robot that, in my opinion, is reminiscent of Grant Walker's Mr. Freeze Grab 'em Bot 5000 with just a slight Zeta influence. More importantly, mentions of a mysterious return seem to suggest that these events occur sometime after Lex and Darkseid become one with the Source Wall at the end of Justice League Unlimited. In fact, this escape from the Source Wall was something that McDuffie suggested all the way back in 2011. And with the inclusion of the Batman Who Laughs, it makes a lot of sense, seen as his addition to current comics keyed us into the fact that the Source Wall is actually a barrier between the main multiverse and the dark multiverse where he resides. This placement could also help make sense of the fact that it seems as though Lex is attempting to rebuild Brainiac, as that was his motivation for the majority of JLU's final season. This explanation could also help make sense of Flashpoint Batman and Vampire Batman being brought into the story. The multiverse is fun! But more on that later in a different video. Hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss it. While I hope for this placement to be the case for the sake of the timeline and not potentially having to throw out previous tie-in material, I'm not entirely sure that it's accurate. In DC's announcement of the series, Dini stated, "Fans familiar with the Batman of the new Batman Superman adventures will be right up to speed." Alan and I approached the writing with the idea that we were doing the season you might have seen if we had not put the series aside to do Batman Beyond, which to me suggests that this would take place prior to any of the DCAU shows that were produced after that, such as Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Ty Templeton also discussed this. Tim Drake is still a very young Robin. Batman isn't middle-aged or anything, and we're not even close to the events of Batman Beyond. And I didn't want it to feel like there's a big gap and Batman was old and Tim was in his 30s or anything like that. I'm really happy it just feels like the next day. After which, he further clarified that this takes place prior to the flashback sequence from Return of the Joker. However, even then, there's a small detail that doesn't sit right with me, in that we see Luthor in his armor that Ultra Humanite built him in Justice League's Injustice for All in order to help battle his kryptonite cancer. Right now, it's probably best that we just slap a big old question mark on this because maybe it's not Lex at all. Maybe it's Town! Okay, but really, that's just a typo that's already caught and fixed, but I had to make the joke. Paul also brought up the Azrael storyline, saying he comes to Gotham on a mission of death to recover something that's been stolen from the Order of St. Dumas, and that brings him into conflict with Batman. Batman has to keep him from murdering members of the Gotham underworld as they try to put together this mystery of who took it and why. I think it's one of the coolest reveals we've done, and it makes perfect sense given the lore of our series. That's one of the issues I'm most jazzed about. And I don't know anything about Azrael because I've not read many 90s comics. So this next part was written by Ted. So if you want to drop a comment and say, hey, thanks Ted for being a good boy, feed the algorithm. Perhaps one of the underworld villains that Azrael encounters is Bane, since he appears here in this panel. While this could be a reference to the character's shared history in the Nightfall story arc, it's also possible this scene could be unrelated. One thing's for sure though, Bane obviously has to survive in order to appear in the Batman Beyond episode, The Winning Edge. Azrael will most likely be Jean-Paul Valley, the original and traditional version of the character who came to Gotham City as an agent for the Order of St. Dumas, and eventually earned Batman's trust enough to replace the Dark Knight in Nightfall, where he wore the same batsuit that we see on the action figure. Interestingly enough, Dini himself created a staple Azrael concept called the Suit of Sorrows, which first appeared in Detective Comics number 838 as part of the Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul crossover. The suit was forged in 1190 during the Crusades by a splinter sect of the Order of St. Dumas to be worn by their champion, Azrael. Perhaps the item stolen from the Order of St. Dumas may be the Suit of Sorrows. As we've already mentioned, Paul Dini liked to bring things in from his Detective Comics run. So that's just a thought. There are a few more pieces of art that we've been able to round up, and while they don't seem to hide quite as many clues, this one with Alfred and Bruce in the Batcave has a pretty shway map of Gotham. Bookmarking that for later when we decide to finally map the city. It's also interesting that despite being in what appears to be their TNBA models, the suit that Alfred is holding isn't inked in to match Bruce's black suit from that show. Perhaps it'll be his brown one from Batman the Animated Series, or maybe a completely different suit altogether. Go ahead, put in your bets. What color will the suit be? Speaking of inks, Alfred's mustache is inked black on this page. One of the last times we saw him in DCAU style, Batman Adventures Volume 2, he was consistently shown to have a graying mustache. While this could be chalked up to artistic representation, much like the ever-changing gray, green, peach skin color of Poison Ivy, which that video's coming soon too, this run of Batman Adventures tried to keep consistent that Alfred was aging, and even showed that by going back to the black mustache in flashback appearances. So while it may be inconsequential in the long run, especially since his mustache is back to black in Starcrossed, set after Batman Adventures, it certainly seemed worthwhile to point out. Maybe Alfred dyes his mustache. The final piece of art we have, once again, comes from Ty Templeton's Instagram and is a panel of Jim Gordon holding what looks like a photo of some sort, probably connected to teeny tiny Deathstroke, and doesn't really add much to speculate on, but Ted is of the opinion that his face looks fuller? I'll let you be the judge of that. But that ends what we have as far as this comic goes. Interestingly enough, we were informed that during New York Toy Fair, the first issue was made available to members of the press. But even though we get press passes to some events, we're not making enough money that we could have flown someone out to New York to be there. So if you want to help us out and make sure that's a future that's possible for the channel, you can go over to patreon.com/DCAU Watchtower, drop a donation over there, check out all the tiers and stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff. We hang out with you guys on live streams, we give you merch discounts. There's a lot of fun stuff over there, so check that out if you want to help support us.
Okay, real quick, we actually have a brand new Patreon tier just for sending us to Comic-Con in April. Go take a look at it. It's just $6 or higher if you want. There's a lot of cool things on the new tier, including me drawing Batman for you, me, famous artist James Strecker. Thanks!
We're gonna be doing a lot more videos on this as issues become available. Recaps, Easter egg nitpicks, continuity stuff, deep dives into specific characters. There's gonna be a lot. So if you don't wanna miss any of that, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for the notifications, hit the like, leave a comment, tell Ted you love him. With all that being said, I've been Maddie Washburn, and this is... We've been speculating. What are you excited for in this comic? What do you want to see them do? I'm signing off. I didn't write an outro. Now you've got to deal with that. I love you. Bye.
Oh, hi. So a few weeks ago, I did an unboxing video for the new McFarlane Toys Batman the Animated Series action figure. And at the end of the video, we announced a giveaway of a second copy of that figure, but we were informed very quickly that you cannot set be a patron as a requirement for a giveaway. It's, illegal. So, what better video than this one to re-announce the giveaway? This guy right here could be yours, and here are the new revamped actual rules for winning him. 1. Be a subscriber of the Watchtower Database. That's this channel that you're watching this on right now, unless someone ripped the video and re-uploaded it to their channel, in which case, look for the real channel. 2. Make a post on social media that can be Twitter or Instagram, only because Facebook doesn't really do hashtags. I mean, I guess they kind of do, but who really knows how they work over there? With something that you always wanted to see in Batman the Animated Series that never happened, but might happen in this new comic. With the hashtag, subscribe to Watchtower Database. It's written right here. It's very self-indulging. One might say vain. One might say stupid, but damn it, we are getting 100,000 subscribers this year, or I'm quitting YouTube forever. I'm just kidding. I think only one way to find out. You know you want this. No, actually, I really don't. It's McFarlane Toys, and it looks bad. Just, it's free. Just take it. God. The winner will be randomly selected, and yes, you can enter more than once by making more than one post. Not like multiples on the same place, but like one on Twitter, one on Instagram, whatever. We'll announce the winner here on the channel in an upcoming Sunday video. I don't know whether it's gonna be the next one, or the one after that, or the one after that. One of those 3. So you'll just have to watch all of them, I guess. Once again, subscribe to the Watchtower Database. Tweet or gram a Batman moment you wish you saw in BTAS, and you hope shows up in the new comic with the hashtag subscribe to Watchtower Database. I want that thing on my wall. Do it for him. Don't do it for me. That's the real end of the video. Goodbye.